All right, y'all made me do it. Here are a bunch more reasons why the ESV is really just not a good translation. First, let's talk about what a good translation of the Bible is. Some folks say that it needs to be word for word or literal, but this is linguistic nonsense. It's not how languages work. A good Bible translation preserves the original meaning of the text as the original author intended it to be heard. So if you're hearing the Bible being read and it sounds awkward, stilted, elevated, Bible-ish, then it's a poor translation because the original hearers of the Hebrew, Aramaic, or Greek would not have heard it as stilted or awkward or elevated language. They would have heard it natural sounding because that's how it was written. Asking the question, would anybody in English actually say this, is a pretty good litmus test for if it's a good translation or not. So first category, let's just talk about some oops translations like Luke 17, where the ESV says that two women are grinding together. Modern hearers are going to assume that these two women are like, getting groovy with each other, where, an ancient listener knew that they were grinding grain together. The ESV tries to translate a lot of idioms literally, but this doesn't work in English. In the book of Amos, where God promises that he's going to send the cleanness of teeth to a city, which is like not dental care, it's famine. But the modern reader is going to read cleanness of teeth and be like, what's so wrong with that? The ESV seems to make this like first year Greek student problem of using one word to translate one word, which is, again, not how translation works. For instance, Galatians 5:14 says the entire law is fulfilled by one word, one logos. But logos can also mean command. And just translating a word every single time doesn't reflect the meaning of its day. Romans 11:6, they translate uketi as a temporal preposition, so we're no longer saved on the basis of works, as instead of a logical preposition. It's no longer the case that we're saved by works. This is just wrong. It's anti-Semitic too, saying that the Jews believe that we were saved by works and that Christians don't. It's not good theology. There are these things called collocations. So in English, we take a walk. In Spanish, you give a walk. In Greek, you have something like every mouth may be stopped, which is the ESV's literal translation, but we don't stop mouths in English. We silence them or we shut mouths. You have archaisms that are preserved, so they're basically just basing their translations off of like very traditional old-timey language. So like Matthew 1:18, his mother Mary has been betrothed to Joseph before they came together. No one in English talks like this way. We don't use the word betrothed. We don't come together. So like the New Living Translation says, Mary was engaged before the marriage took place. We've talked before about how the ESV is just not a gender-accurate language. So all Greek scholars know that anthropos means person or human being. And the ESV translates that sometimes, but it's really inconsistent. We'll also translate anthropos as man, even though it's clear in the context that it is a generic address to all sorts of people, not just men. Same thing happens with adelphoi or brothers, where opening of Colossians says to the brethren in Colossae, even though the letter is addressed to all the people, not just the men or the brothers. The ESV also just has awkward constructions. So like Mark chapter 6, many were coming and going and they had no leisure even to eat, which sounds like some sort of country club situation. Like, no, they didn't have a chance to eat. Has awkward word order like Matthew 7:27, and it fell and great was the fall of it. People don't talk like this. The Today New International Version gets this right, and it fell with a great crash. Greek in particular has very long run-on sentences, which it can get away with because it has a logic to its prepositions and grammar. But look at these long run-on sentences in the ESV. It's very hard to read out loud. It's very hard to read as a, just person reading the Bible. I could give you literally hundreds more examples of this. And I want to reiterate, there's no perfect translation. Translating a couple thousand or several thousand-year-old text into English is hard work. But the ESV is stilted, it's archaic, the word order is wrong, it inserts its complementarian and Calvinist theology in its interpretation. It's just stay away, please.